Brisa said that if someone separates a female animal, either for an oila, for a pesach, or for an asham, so the first opinion said that all of those female animals, even though they're not sacrifices, but they can make temurah. Because you have to wait for them to get a mum, but they can make temurah. Reb Shimon says no.
And you don't get malchus.
No, when you make temurah, you do get malchus.
But in here it says temurah. So I say
No, asa means that it
could do it.
It can, not you may.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the strangest things, this whole business of Temurah.
Yep.
Why would they have such a long shock levitaria about something that you get malchus on?
They don't want you to do it.
Because he already sent it.
I don't want to compare any other laving, but let's say there's a lav of
Separated.
kilayim.
Separate.
So are we
It's
going
not
to go
really
through the
different.
millions of details of it's like almost we're encouraging it. Like it's worth it.
So Reb Shimon's opinion was that it depends which animal. By an oila, we said yes, it does make temurah, even though it's not. It's the animal itself. An oila is supposed to be a zachar. He designated a female, but nevertheless, it could make temurah. But by a pesach and an asham, it's not. It doesn't make temurah. Now we're holding kasal kadaitach on daf chaf the aleph. It says kasal kadaitach. It's our initial thought is Hainu time of the Reb Shimon. What's the reason for Reb Shimon? So if it's 10 lines about from the top of the page on 20a. What's the reason for Reb Shimon? Why does it work? If someone separates a female animal for zayla, why does it work? Why does it make temurah? It's not a good sacrifice. You know, if you remember, Reb Shimon's opinion was very strong. He held in the Mishnah that it doesn't even get kedushas damim. It doesn't even get kedushas aguf when you're mafresh a nekeva for an asham. Otherwise, the first opinion said, oh, you have to wait for it to get a mum, and then you can sell it. He says, what do you need a mum for? It was never received the holiness of a karban. It's in a keva. It's in a keva. Right? The whole thing that it only came, the kedusha only came kedushas damim. So why over here by an oila is it different? Oila gets it can make temurah, it becomes mamash a karban. It says, so what was their thought? Mishum hachi yoseh temurah. Why does it make temurah? Because there is a concept of a female oila by oila saif. So therefore, because there's that concept of an oila of a female oila by a bird, even though he didn't designate a bird, but by a bird there's that concept. So we say that the name oila goes on it because the concept exists. Now it happens to be that this one specifically isn't eligible, but because the name oila exists, so you're able to make temurah off this animal. So the Gemara starts to question this, like, what does this name do that it makes it into an oila? So it starts off with a question like this. Usually, chatas is not a par or a para, but on Yom Kippur, he brings a bull. The Kohen Gadol is supposed to bring a bull. Let's say instead of designating a bull, he designates a cow, a female. So tikdash, let's say that it should become holy. Why? De'ekaparas chatas. Because there is such a thing as a para aduma. So say that it works. We're challenging this name and we're trying to get like, what's this thing? Because you have such a concept that there's a para, that it could be a karban in another scenario, so therefore it should work here. So the Gemara says, well, that's not a good example because kachi bedek abayasu. That's not a real karban. That belongs to the temple fund. The kachi bedek abayas le'avdi temurah. So that's not going to be a good. Okay, so we're going to challenge this again. So yachid shafir shehifir sar l'sirasa tikdash. What about an individual? Usually, a karban chatas is supposed to be in a keva, female. So let's say he designates an individual, designates a male. So we should say that it should become sanctified. Why? De'ikasar nasi. Because the special rule, Torah talks about if a nasi yechta, if a nasi sins. And the Gemara tells us it's talking about a king. If a king does it, doesn't matter if it's from the house of David or from the house of Israel. if a king does a sin, they bring a different sacrifice. For the same sins that an individual brings a sacrifice, but they bring a male sacrifice. So, look, he designates the wrong animal. He designates the male. He's a private individual. And we should say, it should work because there is such a concept by a king that he would bring a male sacrifice. So if that's all you need is the name that works together with that gender, so let it apply. Inami nasi shifr se'ira l'se'ira. Or the opposite. Let's say the king designates the female. What was the Margaret Thatcher? Right? She wore one time she meets with the Queen every week. So one time she wore the same dress. You heard this? She wore the same dress. It's like the biggest sin you could do. So the whole meeting she was nervous. So afterwards she wrote a note. I'm very sorry that I wore the same dress. So the Queen responds something like, the royalty does not concern itself with what commoners wear, or something. Anyway, okay, so here we have the two, the king bringing the same sacrifice as the commoner. So we should say that should be effective. Why? Because the name is still there. Its work is tiktish. The yachid mafir sira, because an individual would have brought a female goat. The Gemara answers, "Hani trei gufin." Those are two separate people. Okay, so it's not just the name. It needs to be the name, not the same person. Now we're getting into trouble, because the Gemara now says, "Chatu ad shlei nismanu." Let's say we have an individual that's going to be appointed to be the king, and he does a sin. Now we're on the same person now. And he separates the wrong sacrifice for his future, position. So he separates the sacrifice. Right now, he should not have separated that sacrifice. He separates a male sacrifice, and he's going to become the king. If he separates a male one, that should be effective. Why? Because right now that he's appointed, so that is the correct sacrifice. We're talking about. We're talking about what is the status of, because that exists somewhere else. How close does that somewhere else need to be to him for it to be considered that that's good? The Gemara says, 1 second. Right now he didn't sin. He's not chayav asar. It shouldn't work. It's not. In other words, his situation changed. Now is the real problem. Through questioning, we boiled this down that it needs to be what he's up to right now. So what are you telling me stories about? This could have been an Ayla Sa'if. You're not bringing an Ayla Sa'if. You say it could have been a female if it would have been a bird, right? He's not bringing a bird.
This is like hard.
No, but the method of getting to this point was beautiful, and through this style questioning, we got it down to exactly what we want to say, and now here we are. So the Gemara explains, Reb Shimon Tzavar like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Shimon holds like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Tanan started in the Mishnah. Real ayoyla. Someone doesn't specify what type of ayla he's going to bring. He just says, "I'm accepting on myself an ayla." So Yavi Keves. He has to bring a lamb. The smallest lamb, but a lamb. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Imer. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, Oitare ben Yain.
This is his son?
No. Ben Azariah. Not the guy from the...
Elazar ben Azariah. Oh,
The
okay.
famous guy.
Okay.
He turned 70 when he was 18.
That's Elazar ben Azariah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the next person. Rabbi Elazar. Oh, same person. Okay.
It was his beard that
We're going to have a Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Elazar soon. So Rabbi Elazar says, I'm sorry?
From Pesach.
From Pesach. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says that if someone accepts on himself to bring an oila, he could bring even a bird. That's so what
Male or female?
which a bird it we don't look at the gender.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell the gender?
Well, by kaparas they seem to tell you this is the male, here's the female. I don't know if they know what they're talking about.
That's the only time
They
you know
take
the
it out of a
difference.
different box. It's like the horoscopes. You read the wrong one and it still works. So, okay. So, no, it could be. So what we're saying over here is that
What could be?
it could be that they can tell. I don't know if they can tell. To me, they,
On the bird.
on the
Oh, I
birds,
thought
and
you were
then-
talking about the horoscopes.
Mine was just like
Yeah, I'm
So-
saying.
zero.
This was a
there.
new
I'm
one.
thinking of the machine I have. I stick in the horoscopes. You know, it's where I
You're
get them out
hoping
of the
finally
box. I
it
put
makes
them in.
sense.
The people say they real. It's a real. I mean, whatever I happen to put in.
It's real.
So,
Of course.
what are we saying now? That
No,
why,
no,
if someone is makdish, we didn't really get it down to the very, very bottom, but what we're saying is that if someone is makdish in the animal, because right now, when he said, I'm accepting on myself an oila, he could have taken a bird. So because he separated a female animal, because that separation could have been a bird and it could have been
Therefore, the name
female,
exists.
so therefore it already the name exists right now when he was separating it, that he could have separated the bird, the female bird, so therefore it becomes the status of an oila. Okay, Tanan Hassam was taught over there. Where's over there? Later
So
on.
basically, this is the proof that Rab Shimon says.
Oh, yeah. So Reb Shimon's
the full
opinion, what did we start today? We started with Kasal Kadaitach, that it's because there's Shem Oila by an Oila Saif. It's more than just the Shem Oila by an Oila Saif. It's that he himself could have brought the Oila Saif. See, the issue is that certain Oilas, it's a Karban Oila V'yored. Depends on your wealth. So we could have said over here, the Gemara could have been discussing something like this, that if a person is very wealthy, then he's obligated to bring an animal. If he's poorer, so then he brings a bird. So it could have said, well, right now he's wealthy, he has to bring an animal. Said, well, he could have been mafkir all his possessions, he could have become poor. And the Gemara would have said, but 1 second, he didn't do that. The fact is that he's still wealthy. So we're saying no. It's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that holds that it doesn't matter. Minastam, you can say a bird even if it's just a donation. If it's just a donation, you can do that. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was very wealthy. Okay, Makdash Nechasav. Someone consecrates all his possessions. It's usually a bad idea because you're left with. You have to be supported by the community, by others. But someone, for whatever reason, he was makdish all his possessions. Now, amongst his possessions, amongst his possessions were animals that could have been brought as sacrifices, and some were male, some were female. So he didn't say exactly what each one was. He just said it's all hektish. So Rabbi Eliezer, this is going to be confusing a little bit. Rabbi Eliezer says, Zecharim, if it's a male animal sacrifice, Yimachru, you sell it to someone that required that sacrifice. The tzarchi oila is someone needed to bring an oila in the town. So you say, oh look, I have these sacrifices, I have these animals that need to be brought as sacrifices, buy them from me. And they can bring these as sacrifices. What are you going to do with the money? You'll see. In a kevais, but if it's a female, Yimachru tzarchi shlamim. You go to someone that already pledged that he's going to bring a shlam. You say, look, I have these animals. They're good to go. Just buy them from me. He never pledged them as sacrifices. He consecrated all his possessions to belong to the temple. So the money from these animals is going to go to the temple. Those animals themselves will actually be brought as sacrifices. But the money from them will go to the temple like he originally consecrated. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes, who is one of the 5 students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yeshua says, Zacharim atzman yikrevu oilas. Those animals themselves, he brings them as an oila. Nekeves, what about the nekeves? This is a little strange. Nekeves yimachru l'tzarchei shlamim. The female animals, those are sold to other people for shlamim, people that needed to bring a peace offering. And he goes back and he takes that money and he brings oilas with that money. That's a little strange. That we have to figure out why that works. But like we said, everything else that he consecrated goes to the temple fund. Amrle Reb Chia Barabba le Reb Yochanan. Reb Chia Barabba is the main student, one of the main students of Reb Yochanan, the respected student of Reb Yochanan. It says he reviewed the teachings of Reb Yochanan every 30 days, and Reb Yochanan would correct it. He asks Reb Yochanan like this: Rabbi Yeshua Damar Zachar Matzim Yikruvu Oilos. What's going on in Rabbi Yeshua's opinion? He says the male offerings, they're brought as oilos because, look, he consecrated everything. It sounds like the animals in here are automatically dedicated as oilos. Automatically. He never said that, but that's what it looks like.
How's that?
So,
How can you have something dedicated but he's designated?
So,
Or just because every person who has charim in his flock, they're designated for others?
yeah, so we would explain it like this, that he consecrated all his property. Now, the consecration, the holiness goes on it. Now, anything that could absorb more holiness is going to absorb more holiness. It's going to take it in, and you said yes, it's going to swell.
It can't be a shlomim,
So-
because then the owners eat it. He can't eat it. So it has to be an oil.
So-
you don't have the option of shlomim. It's
Every,
not spotless.
Interesting.
every person that has cows or sheep or whatever it is, are you saying by definition they're all designated?
If
No,
he
what-
gave all his assets to
Right.
Balak Abayis. If
He's
he
giving
gave
it
The
all his
next
assets-
moment, all his 100 cows, charim, are designated.
Are designated, because that's the highest level of designation.
Yeah, so what happens
Obviously,
is...
when a guy gets hekdesh, he wants his money to go to the best use. That's his
So why
interest.
can't it just go to Bedek Habayit, period? Why does it
Right.
have to go for
The highest use.
Right,
They
so
want the highest use. The
Hekdesh
highest
Habayit.
use is an oila.
we,
He
the way-
didn't say that. He just said
we
Hekdesh
say-
Bedek Habayit.
we say that an animal, anything that could absorb more holiness, will continue to absorb the holiness. So even though he dedicated for Bedek Habayis, which is Kedushas Damim,
Right.
just its value,
Well,
but animals that are eligible will automatically take on the next level.
He didn't say Balak Abayis. This is a Magdish Nechos.
Yeah,
The
but that
fact
means Bedek Habayis.
And the proof notes b'soifam. It
Why?
says at the end, it says
But
dama.
the word hekdesh doesn't mean Balak Abayis. It could be a Magdish. If somebody's Magdish as animals, then it's not the Balak Abayis.
No, so the reason is because those animals, even if he said Bedek Habayis, those animals will absorb more Kedusha.
Okay, so that clarifies it.
That's
So
the,
somebody's Magdish animals, the Balak
Period. Just
Abayis,
not his
if they're
house.
eligible.
Just
if
that.
they're eligible, they go up to the korban. So we always elevate them.
Wow.
So here, but
Okay,
here now
got
we
it.
have to clarify Rabbi Shua's opinion. Because Rabbi
Okay.
Shua said if it's a male, Zechar Matzim Yikruvoilos, you bring them as an Oila. So that sounds like that automatically there's an Oila status that goes on all his animals. In the Keves, we said that you sell them as the Nekevis,
What
we
is
said
Sarchesh Shlamim mean?
you sell them to other people that need shlamim. You take the money, and then that money you yourself go back and buy oilas. He says Nekevis Hechem Mekarvan Shlamim. How could you even sell them to someone else for shlamim? It sounds like those are real oilas because all the animals become oilas. The problem is what happens if someone is makdish or mafresh his animal nekeva oila his nekeva for an oila. Now an oila is supposed to be a zachar. So what did we say? If someone separates an oila, hamafresh nekeva la oila, you have to wait till it gets a mum. Right?
asham to actually start.
That you wait till it gets a mum. A mafresh. What happens a mafresh nekeva? You have to wait till it gets a mum, and then comes after chesam at beis. A mafresh.
There
Yeah.
it says hamafresh nekeva l'asham.
No, also it has mafresh nekeva loila. If it gives birth to a female, whatever the case is, you should have to wait till it gets a mum.
Yeah, but mafresh nekeva l'oila.
So why is he allowed to? Why is he allowed to just sell it as a shlamim? Well, we have a new exception here. You can sell a nekeva oila as a shlamim. How'd that come about? It's mikayach kedusha dechuya kasinin. It comes from a sacrifice that was not eligible. It can't become a shlamim. Lishnachrina. There's another way that this question was posed. Amalei Reb Chia bar Abba Reb Yechanan. Reb Chia bar Abba says to Reb Yechanan, "Midakam Reb Yeshua zechar matzim mikruvo oilos." The fact that he says that the male offerings are oilos l'meimra, that tells me the kedusha zakuf akdashinu. Beautiful. Thank you. That tells me that it becomes it gets the status of kedusha zakuf, that it becomes a sacrifice. Okay, the same. It's interesting how the Gemara. It's the same point, and the Gemara needs to say the exact language of the. There's a Gemara that says, I forget the cases. It was in Bab Metzia. I think it said Rabbi Yaakov Chayev. The Gemara says Rabbi Yaakov Maya Vidite. What did Rabbi Yaakov do? It says Rabbi Yaakov Oimer Chayev. So they asked, why don't you just edit that out? That's obviously a mistake. Why don't you just put in the so it's based on that. Every word of the whole Torah is Shemaisav Shalakadosh Baruch Hu. It's the names of Hashem. So even though for us it's like the same thing, what's the problem? But in there's deeper meanings to each level, so it has to put it in. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says, Amalei. He says to him, Rabbi Yechanan says to him that Rabbi Yeshua savalak Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yeshua holds like Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yeshua holds that if it's not eligible, it doesn't become holy. Just like over here by the asham. Rabbi Yeshua held that if someone is mafresh in a keva for an asham, Rabbi Yeshua says you don't need to wait for it to get a mum. It has a mum. It's a nekeva. It never got the holiness. So here too, by the oila, we say, even though where was Rabbi Yeshua the whole time when we were talking about this? He never mentioned this before. But we're saying this is what he holds. Ditanan, Reb Shimon Aimer, Timacher Shlei B'mum. So what do we do over there? Kivan Leichazi and the Keva Lashlam Menachle Kedush Saguf.
You should have been able to learn this from Tumtum.
Okay.
It's making it a nekeva, but you can't find the zechar part, therefore obviously it can't be.
So what do we do with the Tumtum?
We don't.
It never got the holiness?
Right. Wasn't one of the excluded korbanos?
Rabbi Lezer says, Hakilayim v'ayetzi doifen Tumtum androgynous like Kedoshim v'lei makdishim. We said, how does it get holiness? Maybe.
I mean, that's a wild fetched answer. But
Maybe.
I'm saying,
No, we'd
if
have to
over
go
there,
back and learn
it couldn't
that.
be
Very
because
good,
you
Right.
couldn't tell if it's male or female. Here, I
Very
know for
interesting.
sure it's not male. It shouldn't even apply. Done.
Very interesting.
So you don't know things.
Very interesting.
You reviewed early, huh?
Yeah.
The Gemara says now, Imad Damar Reb Shimon Gabi Nekeva Liyasham. We know that Reb Shimon says this, if someone consecrates a female for an asham, that's how it works. The lekashem asham alimai. Why? Because it's impossible for a female to be an asham. There's no such thing. There is a concept. There is a concept of a female oila. If it would be a bird, right? So the Gemara answers, Afilu Reb Shimon. No, I'm sorry. Afilu Reb Shimon Maida. Reb Shimon will also agree. V'oid Hashemin li Reb Shimon la ilase Temurah. We had an opinion before, where Up here we had the brisa that says Reb Shimon says Oila is different. Oila does make Temurah. It was Pesach and Asham that didn't make Temurah. So Amar Lei responds, this must be Reb Chia. Is Reb Chia bar Abba responding, or is this Reb Yechanan?
Here it says the Gemara. Rabbi Yechanan.
Okay, so Rabbi Yechanan responds. He says, Rabbi Shua Savalaki Dachtana. Amalei Rabbi Shua Savalaki Dachtana. Rabbi Yeshua in this Mishnah, or in this brisa rather, that's a Mishnah, but it's not here. It's quoted here. This Rabbi Yeshua is going to hold like a different Tana Liba Rabbi Shimon who goes according to Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Imer Mishum Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Shimon, Af Lailase Enaisa Temurah, that even for an Eila it doesn't make Temurah. So here we're learning that Rabbi Shimon holds across the board, according to this Tana, across the board that you never say that because it could have been eligible in some other situation, that it becomes holy. We don't say that. We say that the fact is it has a mum. This is considered a blemish. It doesn't get the holiness. Doesn't get kedushas aguf. It only retains a kedushas damim, and you could sell it right away. So, if that's the case, zecharim are brought as an oila because they're eligible, but in a keva you could sell it right away as a shlamim. In other words, it never got the kedusha that it's considered kedusha d'chuya. It never got the original holiness. Okay. Temurah Sasham. An exchange for an exchange Asham. That means that he had a carbon and he did Temurah. He exchanged that carbon for another animal, and whether it's male or female. We learned the halacha already that you have to wait till it gets a mum by an Asham. Vlad Temurah. Let's say exchange it for a female, and the female gave birth to a male. So now that male should be eligible, right? Vladan of Vladan Atzek Kalaylam, but nevertheless, Yiroad Shiestavu Yimachru Yiplu Damav Linadava. You wait till it gets a mum, you sell it as a non-holy animal, just with the holiness of a Psuli HaMikdashim, and with that money, you give it to the temple fund that they're going to use to buy sacrifices. It's a pushka, a shayfer that they would fill up with coins that they would use to buy sacrifices. Rabbi Eliezer Reimer Yamusu. Rabbi Eliezer says no, you have to put it to death. Now Rabbi Eliezer held that an asham is the same halacha as a chatas. Just like we had 5 chatas that are put to death, Rabbi Eliezer holds that applies to the asham, and one of those was a temurah, and the temurah by a chatas, so the same thing is going to apply to the asham. It's put to death. What about Rabbi Elazar? You have to edit this. You drop the yod over there. Rabbi Elazar Reimer. Yavi b'damei oilas. Rabbi Elazar says, it's not Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. It's a different Rabbi Elazar. It's Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. Rabbi Elazar says that you bring a oila with the money. Now, this is going to be a very interesting Mishnah, but you have to give it a little pause here, and then we'll get back to this. Asham shemeisa bailav v'shekipru bailav. Let's say there was an asham that the owners either died or they lost the sacrifice, so they brought a different one, and then this one resurfaced, and now they have this extra sacrifice. So what do you do with it? Yiroad Shiestavu, you wait till it gets a mum, you sell it, and you put the money into that pushka. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says it's put to death. Rabbi Elazar, here it's written correctly. So, you bring an oila. The Mishnah asks, and this is why this is a very interesting Mishnah. It says, the first Tana, the Tana Kama, said that the money goes to Nedava. That's an oila. What's the difference between Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim? This is very interesting that we have generations in the Mishnah. We're looking at a later Tanoim, looking back and explaining what's the difference between Rabbi Elazar in the Chachamim that we've learned. You follow? There's like another there's layers in the Mishnah. So Ella Bismanshi Ba Ella If it's an oila, which means that's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar, so saimechala, you have to do smicha. It's a private oila, you do smicha. Maybe nesachim, you have to bring the wine, oil, and flour. Nesacham mishalai, he brings it from his own possessions. Imay kayin, let's say he's a kayin, avidas avayir shalai. So a kayin is always allowed to bring his own sacrifice. He doesn't have to give it over to all his brothers and cousins. Bizmanshi nedava, but let's say it goes to the pushka. Where over there, they would just bring sacrifices whenever the altar was empty. They would just take money out, buy sacrifices, and bring it. So then, Eina Seimechala, that's a community oila. You don't do smicha on that. You don't lean on it. Eina Meivel and Nesachim.
This went to Hegdish, it becomes like a community.
Right.
That's what he's
So
saying.
it's not the first one. He says,
No, that he's saying the difference in chachamim.
right, so there is no difference because they're both community.
Rabbi
It says,
Elazar.
"Imay kohen misachem mishaloi." What do you mean, "Imay kohen misachem mishaloi"? If the kohen gave this as a oila, he still doesn't bring it.
Chachamim say
Mishal
nedava, and Elazar
No,
says
what it means is that if the kohen is the one that consecrated this,
Once it's contrary, it's gone. It's not his.
no, it is his. It is his. You're allowed to take your own. If you're a kohen, you can do the service on your own sacrifice. It's not a
But he's
community.
not bringing it
sacrifice.
as a sacrifice. He gave it as Hegdish.
No, he was. This was a Temurah's Hashem. Temurah's Hashem. He had a karba, and he did Temurah on it. So.
It says Yimachru.
He sells it, and the
Rabbi
money
Elazar
goes to
says-
Nedava. Rabbi Elazar says
oila.
he brings his own oila. He sells it, and he brings his own oila.